Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we go off the handle when people offer us candy because we watched The Robots of Death.
Written by Chris Boucher.
And directed by Michael Bryant.
And aired in January and February of 1977. It's another Chris Boucher serial, like we mentioned last week.
Right, and we went and looked to see if he was the first person to write 2 serials in a row, and he wasn't, because Ian Stuart Black wrote The Savages and The War Machines back to back.
Right. We actually, I think, mentioned that back then, but, you know, instead of writing 2 mediocre serials, Chris Boucher actually wrote 2 good serials.
Yeah. And then he only writes 1 more serial.
Dang.
And he's like, I'm out, guys.
Because he goes on to become script editor for Blake 7, apparently.
Yeah, and if his quality of scripts from here is anything, if it is any indication, Blake 7 must be pretty well written.
Yeah, I mean, kind of makes me want to watch it. What also kind of makes me want to watch it is that it's only 52 episodes.
Instead of the, 800 we're going through?
Yeah, only 52 episodes. You know you've gone insane. Well, I know I've gone insane at this point, so...
Well, I mean, Blake 7 also has novels and audio dramas, as does Doctor Who, so... Kind of became a cult show, I guess. Well, I guess it was pretty well known when it was on, and then kind of descended into obscurity for a while.
I guess. I don't really know anything about it other than...
that it exists.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so the serial begins on big giant ship, some robots.
A sand miner, apparently inspired by Dune.
Yeah, makes sense. They're on a desert planet mining some valuable resource. Sounds like Dune to me.
Yeah. Though this doesn't take place in the desert at all. It's all on the ship, which isn't really a problem, but
yeah,
there you go. So it starts with some guy getting killed by a terrifying-looking robot.
Yeah, the robot just walks up like, must kill, and then strangles him to death.
I mean, I think I almost got robophobia looking at these things, because, I mean, they just looked creepy. Especially when their eyes glowed red.
Yeah, when they were possessed.
Yeah.
By the devil.
Well, yeah, actually, come to think of it, wow. So yeah, he calls out for help, and this guy named Poole goes running to help him, but it's too late. He's dead.
Yeah, Poole shows up just after he's died, and then Poole's like, oh no, he's dead. And the commander of the ship kind of calls a meeting. Meanwhile, the doctor lands in one of the sand collecting vents, I guess.
Yeah, pretty sure that's what it was. He and Leela. Well, Leela's actually playing with a yo-yo in the TARDIS. She thinks that... I guess she misunderstands the doctor and thinks that she has to keep doing it for the TARDIS to work. or the doctor is just messing with her.
Both equally viable. She kind of asks about the magic of the TARDIS, and he explains the inside of the TARDIS using some boxes. He kind of puts one on the console. It's like, so this one's bigger, right? And she's like, yeah. And then he like walks over to Leela with the other box. It's like, so from this angle, this one looks bigger, right? So if you can keep that one over there, but put it inside this one, you'll have a bigger space inside. And Leela's like, I still don't understand.
Yeah, I still don't understand either.
I sort of understand.
Anyway, they venture out into the collection vent, like we said, and they look outside, sort of, and see the desert landscape, and a sandstorm rolls in, and they make a run for it. The doctor actually mentions that the storm might be moving up to 1,000 miles an hour, which seems a bit ridiculous, because wouldn't they just be engulfed within seconds?
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, the doctor's like, yeah, if the sand comes in you, it'll just tear us to pieces. Pretty morbid to think about.
Yeah.
So they're kind of panicking about how to shut everything down, and then everything suddenly shuts down. They're like, someone must have known we were in here. Meanwhile, in the common room of the sand miner, I guess, you meet the assortment of characters, and they're all kind of lounging around. One of them's playing chess against a robot, and the robot's like, mate, in 8 moves. My dad would always do that, and I'd be like, what? So they're kind of all throwing accusations at each other, like, you killed him. No, you killed him.
Yeah, I liked how immediately these guys were at each other's throats, and just how distrustful they were of one another. But I guess living in close quarters with the same people for like 2 years will do that to you.
Yeah.
But especially the commander, Ivanov, whatever his name was. he was the most distrustful of anyone. Great commander, guys. Great commander.
Well,
You find out he's actually kind of a good person later.
Yeah, good person, but you also find out later he's kind of still a terrible commander because of what he did in the past. So they're all kind of hanging out, and the Doctor and Leela come running in.
Right. Should we explain each character? Because they're pretty interesting, actually, surprisingly enough. Considering most of them die immediately.
Immediately.
So there's the commander, Ivanov.
Right, there's Poole.
Right.
Did he have an official profession?
Well, we find out later what he's actually there for, so I'm not even sure. There's Toos, who I guess is like the second in command, almost.
Yeah, I think so. There was Dask, who was head of Robo Operations.
Who, he actually looks like Satan, like, legit. There was Borg, who is pretty antagonistic towards everyone.
Yeah.
There was Cass, I think, who was acted really poorly. That was the Indian guy or whatever, right?
Yeah. There was Zilda,
who also had some pretty poor acting.
Yeah, Zilda was super antagonistic towards Uvanov. There's something going on there. And then there was Carol. And the guy who died was Chubb, but we only learned that because they kind of mentioned, like, oh yeah, Chubb's dead, guys. And they're like, oh, Chubb's dead. Yeah, and there's Carol, who you don't find out is officially dead till episode 2, but we'll mention that when we get there. So the Doctor and Co.
And Leela conveniently show up at the perfect time to become scapegoats for the murder that just happened. Which
happens a lot in this show, and we consistently mention that it happens a lot in this show because it's like the only way they can generate any sort of suspense.
Well, that's debatable, but yeah, they I mean, not the fact that they use it a lot, but the fact that it's the only way they can generate suspense. But yeah, they do use it a lot to generate suspense, and yeah, here it's used to generate suspense, so great.
So they're all kind of, most of them are accusing the Doctor and Leela, but Poole's like, I don't believe it. They're not guilty, and you find out why he believes that later.
Yeah, and I guess that sort of just paints suspicion on himself, because then they kind of all turn on him for a while. Not that that's surprising, since they turn on each person at least once.
Yeah. Before they show up, they don't show up till episode 2, do they?
Who?
Doctor and Leela? Because they go and they find, because they're like, where is everybody? And then the Doctor and Leela get separated.
Yeah, I guess they sort of explore the
the Doctor
premises.
Gets into some tube capsule thing. He's like, this is a good idea. And then it starts filling up with sand. He's like, oh no, I'm going to die.
Right, and that's when he sees the dead body in the sand collector, I guess that's what it was. Sand tube? I don't know. I just want to mention that the guy who played Cass, again, was just a terrible actor. I mean, I know I mentioned it, but come on. I mean, I'm glad he was one of the first people to die, but...
I mean, I didn't think he was Stubbs and Cotton level bad, to be honest. I thought he was okay.
Yeah, he stood out like a sore thumb here, though. I mean, compared to...
I guess because everybody else was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I didn't immediately notice that he was poorly acted.
He was poorly acted? Okay, that was bad.
Yeah, especially since Poole was one of the better acted characters in this serial.
Yeah, actually.
So the Doctor's found a dead body. We don't know where Leela is by the end of episode 1, but when episode 2 starts, you find out that she's also found a dead body.
Right. And a robot comes in, you're like, oh god, is she gonna die too? But no.
No, the robot's just like, what's up? You didn't kill this guy because you're too weak. Leela's like, what did you say about me, mate?
Then it asks Leela not to tell anyone else on the ship that it can talk, which is a little suspicious. And as soon as someone else, what's also suspicious is that I think it's Ivanov who walks in.
Yeah.
And as soon as he walks in, the robot just grabs Leela, and that sort of pretends to have apprehended her.
Yeah, and she's like, just also this robot. I didn't kill him. Robot knows I'm too short, not tall enough, couldn't have reached his throat. And Ivanov's like, I don't believe you. And right at that moment, the doctor gets saved because one of the robots is like, oh yeah, I noticed a decrease in the purity of the whatever's in that thing. They're mining a specific mineral that I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
And he's like, so I stopped it and got you out. The doctor's been breathing through a tube. I was like, why? Like, when the sand's coming in, why don't you just consistently climb on top of a pile as it's just piling up?
Because it's sand. It's not easily climbable.
Yeah, but you could have at least got yourself high up so you didn't have to breathe through a tube. Where did you even get that tube?
Same place you got that glass plate last cereal. Anyway.
Yeah, the doctor gets captured.
Right. Ivanov also explains the hierarchy of robots on the ship. Because when Leela asks the robot to explain how it had just talked, Ivanov is like, well, that robot can't talk. It's just a D model. You know what D stands for? Dumb. There's also other ones that can talk. I guess those are S.
There's the dumb, the Vok, and the super Vok.
Oh, right, the V, not the S. Since the SV.
The SV commands the V, I guess. I don't know.
It's also looked really shiny.
The hierarchy isn't entirely explained beyond D is for dumb. It's like, what do they each do? Like, what are their purposes?
Who knows?
Maybe they expand it more in the sequel novel that Chris Boucher also wrote.
Maybe not.
Right, so the Doctor and Leela get captured, and that's when the scene happens where Poole's like, I don't believe it. They couldn't have done it.
That's also where the scene happens where the Doctor offers, I think Borg, a jelly baby, and is just... Borg just flies off the handle, is like, shut up! And he knocks the bag of candy out of his hand.
Yeah, it's like a simple no would have sufficed. So the jelly babies are all over the floor, and unsalvageable.
That's the real tragedy here.
The jelly babies have died. So clearly Borg is the killer. It's the assumption we have to draw here.
Well, you know what I found interesting is that as soon as everyone started arguing, I think Borg attacks... Well, he's suspicious of the Doctor, and some comment someone makes causes him to go off the handle, and he tries to strangle the Doctor. And I was kind of surprised at this, because why would he try and kill someone in the exact same way that what's-his-face had died before? Wouldn't that just paint him... I mean, I guess it's circumstantial, of course, but, like, wouldn't that just paint him in a bad light?
Yeah, I guess, but at the same time, I guess he assumes everybody else just believes the Doctor and Leela to be the killers, even though I think they've pretty conclusively proven that Leela couldn't have killed the other guy. I think they discarded the 2-week theory and were like, oh yeah, she was too short to like wrap her arms around his throat and kill him.
I guess it's pretty interesting considering there'd have to be a considerable height difference for you not to be able to wrap your hands around someone's neck, but I don't know. Either way, Borg pays for his mistake with his life. A little extreme, actually.
Yeah, there's a scene where some mysterious shadowy figure's like, you must kill Borg, and they're like, we must kill Borg.
Right, and you only see it from the waist down, which... I don't know.
Makes it look like Ivanov. Because it's like really dark clothing, and the only person on the ship who was wearing dark clothing was Ivanov.
Well, I don't want to spoil who it is right now, but I'm going to mention...
I thought it was Ivanov.
Well, I thought it was him when they showed the actual mask. You know, the masked figure or whatever for like a split second.
Yeah, but I just thought it was Ivanov because of the dark clothing, to be honest. And maybe that's what they were going for. Red herring.
And also the, Zilda on the intercom kind of Kind of makes you think it was Ivanov, but yeah, it's not him. It's someone else.
Yeah, the Doctor and Leela and Poole decide to go, running around, seeing what's up. That's legitimately what they do. Poole lets them out. I thought it was funny. They're locked up with these, I think, steel bars, and the Doctor's like, the corrugated steel take us years to escape, and then they just kind of move because they're like tin foil. And I was like, really? They're steel? But the Doctor's trying to run through the combinations for the lock in his head. And he's like, it'll only take us about 3 weeks, Leela. We'll be fine. And Poole comes in and lets him out. So they decide to go and see what's going on. Meanwhile, Zilda has busted into Ivanov's quarters and wants to find out what's going on with Ivanov.
Right. She looks through, I guess, his journal or some logs or whatever and starts crying.
Yeah.
And accuses Ivanov of doing something terrible over the intercom, but we don't find out what because she's immediately killed by a robot.
Yeah. And then Ivanov is like, what are you doing? And he runs to go into their quarters, and he gets in there, and he finds Zilda, and then Poole and the Doctor, Poole shows up. So I think he splits.
Pretty suspicious.
He splits from the Doctor and Leela because they go to investigate the robots because he tells Poole, like, maybe the robots did it, because when they're putting the Doctor on pseudo trial, he's like, there's one species, so to speak, that you've neglected to consider, and they're like, nah, it doesn't matter. So the Doctor told Poole that they neglected to consider the robots, and Poole's like, no, they can't kill us because it's the first paradigm or whatever. Robots aren't allowed to harm us.
Their prime directive disallows them to harm humans. Isn't that some... wasn't that Isaac Asimov?
Isaac Asimov, yeah, the first law of robotics is you shall not harm humans.
Okay.
This came up before, actually, in a Tom Baker serial, but I'm forgetting which one Robot? It was. Might have been Robot.
It was Robot.
Yeah, I guess it was. But yeah, so the Doctor's like, but if they subverted the programming... So the Doctor and Leela have gone to go investigate the robots, and Poole shows up in Zilda's quarters, and Ivanov is standing over her dead body, and that looks pretty shady for Ivanov.
But there's not really much time to discuss because someone has sabotaged the ship and it's sinking into the sand.
Yep. And Borg dies.
Yeah, that too.
By the way, Borg gets killed.
There were a few things in this serial that seemed like they just kind of ran out of time. A couple characters get killed off screen.
Yeah.
Some of them doesn't really matter. Like
Borg.
I guess. They kind of just mention it. They don't even really show him at all. They just mention, oh yeah, Borg died. And then there's the last minute of the serial, but yeah, the ship is sinking. And that's how episode 2 ends. Yeah,
ship's sinking, and the Doctor's in the command quarters like, you gotta cut the power! And Toos is like, no, we can't. Well, no, they're speeding off the cliff. That's how episode 2 ends, because the Doctor's like, you gotta cut the power, and Toos like, no, we'll start sinking if we cut the power.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, so in episode 3, they cut the power and they start sinking, and then, what's his name, the engineer? Was it Dask? I think it was Dask. Yeah, he's like, I can go repair the engines. So he goes to repair the engines while the Doctor works in the command center for a bit, fiddling around with who knows what. So the Doctor and Leela somehow, I think they go to investigate some more, and they run into D-84. I think the Doctor wants... He should have been a companion, to be honest.
Yeah, actually.
That would have been interesting. Robotic companion.
And Leela.
Would have been great, actually.
Yeah. Dang it.
Darn. Although, to be honest, his, the ending of this serial felt pretty satisfactory.
What?
Like, as a wrap-up to the serial. Anyway, we'll get there. So they run into D-84, and they're like, hey, D-84, and then the Doctor kind of blackmails him into talking to him by threatening to go tell Ivanov that D-84 can talk. And then he's like, no, please don't.
And D-84 reveals that it and Poole are actually detectives from the company who had been sent undercover on this mission to investigate some dude named Taryn Capel.
Yeah.
Who they had on record as, I guess, making threats.
Some sort of
something.
noted robotics leader. He was raised by robots, they mention. They don't know what he looks like. So D84 is like, can't be anyone on board. And the doc's like, do you have pictures of everyone on board before they came on board? D84 is like, I failed to consider that. I have failed.
Pretty sad, actually.
Doc's like, no, you haven't failed. Just think, now we can go investigate some more. Let's go!
Should have been a companion. Dang it!
His character arc was complete, though.
I guess. Honestly, probably the most impactful death in a while.
Spoilers!
Maybe we should just spoil who the...
No! Gotta keep up the mystery.
Anyone listening to this has probably seen the episode.
No. There are people who listen to this who haven't seen the episode.
Well, I'm just going to assume that that's not true, even though I have no evidence one way or the other. Anyway.
Yeah, so they meet D84 and they decide to go investigate some more, and then we see shadowy figure tell all the robots to go kill people, including SV7, who is revealed to be in on it. During the crisis on the command deck, Toos injured her arm, and Leela is actually with Toos, helping her patch up her arm.
Right. Leela also was told by the doctor to investigate Pool, which she does, but that kind of goes nowhere.
Yeah, given what happens to Pool in about 10 minutes.
And also the fact that we learned Pool was, least the one least suspicious on board. I guess him being an undercover detective makes him the most suspicious, but I don't know.
Yeah, we also forgot to mention that Pool has told the Doctor and Leela all about Zilda and Uvanov's past history, because apparently in the past Uvanov made some shady decisions as commander of a different sand miner that led directly to someone getting killed. And Toos doesn't believe it, because I think Toos was there when he was talking about it, because there would have been an investigation. And then Pool's like, nah, the company covered it up because Ivanov's one of the best, has the best return on investment out of any captain. And Zilda is revealed to be the sister of the person who was killed in the past.
Right. They also say they covered it up, or that their father covered it up so that his son wouldn't be seen as a failure or something like that. But,
someone within the company covered it up. And it was shady. That's all you need to know. Pretty
interesting backstory, actually. I kind of like how they did that, even though it didn't really add anything to anything, but I guess it kind of explains why Zilda was so suspicious of Ivanov.
Like in Face of Evil, where they slowly trickle backstory to you.
Yeah, except different. I don't know.
So Leela's left Toos to go find the Doctor. Meanwhile, the Doctor and D84 have found the secret lab that Terran Capel was using. And Uvanov shows up and is like, so it was you all along, Doctor? And he's like, no. Also, I would come over here if I was you. You might want to turn around. There's a killer robot over there. He's like, ah! The Doc's like, yeah, don't worry. I guess we'll find out which one of us he wants to kill first. And obviously he goes for the Doctor because it wouldn't be a cliffhanger if he didn't.
Right. Meanwhile, I guess a robot has gone to kill Toos. I think that
robot has gone
here,
to kill
maybe
everybody.
A little bit later. Yeah, but it shows up right at Toos's door, and this was actually pretty terrifying. When it says, a door is not a barrier, Toos. And then
he gets his hand stuck in the door first, and then Toos beats it off him. And then...
I don't even know what that was. A tiny lamp? It looked like a really fancy porcelain toilet paper roll thing. Not a toilet paper roll, but the thing you hang toilet paper on. Apparently this is really funny.
Trying to imagine why she would have a toilet paper roll, like,
hey,
in the corners.
We don't know. Don't judge.
Not judging, I'm trying to justify it.
Don't justify, just accept.
This entire show.
Yeah, you kind of have to just accept this entire show.
Okay. So in episode 4, the robots are still killer robots, and Toos calls up the doctor. He's like, the doctor, what do I do? Help! There's a robot outside trying to get in. The doctor's like, okay, I'm sending... Well, the doctor gets saved because I think D-84 stabs the robot with a pole.
Yeah, D-84 comes in and saves the day.
R2-D-84.
Oh, God. So the doctor's plan is to get everyone in the command room.
Yeah, and he sends D-84 to help Toos because D-84 is faster and stronger than the doctor. The doctor's like, okay.
Interestingly enough, since the robots look pretty slow for the most part.
Well, I mean, we also forgot to mention when Poole locks Leela in the common room and kind of casting suspicion onto Poole for a while. Then a robot comes in and tries to kill Leela. This was a while back, in episode 2 or 3.
We're really explaining this out of order, but whatever.
Yeah, Leela tries to kill the robot by throwing her knife at it, indicating a skill that's pretty impressive, actually. And the knife just kind of bounces off the robot, and she's like, oh.
Darn.
I think Leela makes a snide comment about it later when Toos is talking about how robots aren't allowed to kill humans, and then Leela's like, humans aren't allowed to kill robots either. I found out they don't bleed.
Right, but Poole has also gone off the deep end. He's succumbed to robophobia.
Yeah, he's seen one of the robots with blood on their hands.
Borg's blood.
Like, legitimately blood on their hands. And it kind of drove Poole into the pool of insanity.
How does he become a detective if he can't stand...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that he's been around robots for so long. They kind of mentioned that that's what it is, but they do actually manage to get everyone into the control room, so...
Including Poole, but not till the Doctor and Leela have left again.
Right. Except Dask. Dask is still off doing who knows what.
Yeah, because, well, this is when it's revealed...
Yeah, that he's Terran Capel, because he bangs on the door, asking Ivanov and Toos to let him in, and Ivanov wants to.
Toos is like, no, the doctor told us not to let anyone in. Kind of jumps the scene where the doctor and Leela are in the command room telling Ivanov the plan, like, okay, if we use these bombs, we can make anti-robot bombs. Now, while you do that, we're going to go down to Terran Capel's lab, and we're going to see if we can reverse the infection, I guess.
Right, and that's also when the robots give them that ultimatum, come out in 5 minutes and we'll kill you painlessly, or stay in and die a painful death.
But yeah, while the Doctor, Leela, and D-84 are out, Dash shows up and throws a tantrum trying to get in, and they don't let him in. And then it pans out and you see his face painted
green.
Green and silver, like the robots.
Right. So, I don't know, I felt kind of sorry for him before you see him outside the door. I was like, oh, come on, guys, it's just Dask, let him in. And then, no, he's actually Terran Capel, and you see him standing outside with a group of robots. Like, darn, it didn't work.
You also jumped the scene where it's revealed SV7 is in on it, because Toos is not in her quarters with Leela, and SV7's like, where are you? And she's like, in my quarters. I'm in my quarters.
Leela is actually amazing this serial. And, she's proving herself to be one of the best companions so far.
Yeah, because she figures out that SV7's in on it before it's even revealed. Plus, she, figures out a lot of the robot rebellion. And she holds the robot back when, everybody else on the ship couldn't.
And it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't take her, 3 or 4 serials to start doing things. Like most companions.
Might be because Chris Boucher was the one who introduced the Lost serial, so he really knows what he wants in the character this serial.
I guess, maybe
he's trying to set it up so that the future writers know what the heck they're going to do with Leela.
And that's a good thing, but hopefully it doesn't all go downhill next week once we get not Chris Boucher writing.
Yeah, because I think we mentioned this before, that why companions seem to take so long to get to do anything is because the writers are also trying to figure out the characterization of the character. And with Chris Boucher writing the first 2 serials for the character, it's pretty easy to nail down exactly what they want from the character and what we expect to get from the character. The characterization is set up pretty quickly. Also, it helps that Chris Boucher's a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed the dialogue in this serial, especially in the scenes in the common room. There was a lot of snappy, snarky dialogue back and forth between all the crew members.
Yeah, actually.
Except for that one line in episode 4 that we're about to get to.
Which one is that?
The one the doctor says to Leela.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that line. Okay, well, we're not quite there yet, but... So, there's a robot trying to bust in just before Dask comes in, and Uvanov blows it up with one of the bombs. We decided we're going to count the robots who get blown up and or definitively die, because I guess they're sentient to some degree.
Right, but we're not counting the ones who get, on our death count that is, we're not counting the ones who get repurposed, because apparently they can, just be deactivated and then repurposed and reactivated.
Yeah.
So we're not counting those ones as dead. We also completely neglected to mention the discs, the little red discs.
The corpse markers.
Right. Which were placed on all the dead bodies as sort of a sick joke, I guess, because they're what's placed on the robots when they get deactivated to signify that they're deactivated, and Dask / the robots were just placing them on the humans who died.
Yeah, and the sequel novel to this serial is also called Corpse Marker. Interestingly enough. So, yeah, they're using those corpse markers, and when Dask / Taron Capel has been giving the robots their orders to kill people, he's been giving them the little red discs. It's like, you must kill blankety blank blank. And they're like, okay, I will kill blank.
Right, and apparently the scene we mentioned before where you see Taron Capel from the waist down, apparently you can immediately figure out that it's Dask right there, because he has distinctive markings on his trousers or whatever.
Huh.
So, I mean, you have to really be paying attention.
Yeah. And they all have pretty distinctive makeup, I guess, on their faces. You noticed that, right?
Yeah, that was
the line down their nose and up.
Yeah, it was actually kind of distracting and just really weird, because it didn't seem to be drawn on all too well.
Also, Toose's mohawk headdress. Anyway, we're getting a bit off topic.
Yes.
So, Uvanov is like, we gotta help the doctor. I mean, we're clearly decoys while the doctor figures out how to deactivate the robots, so let's take these bombs and go on the offensive, Toos. And Toos is like, yeah, let's do it. So they go out with their little robot bombs, and we see them a bit later, but I guess they go on a robot killing hunt. So the doctor and D84 and Leela are working in the robotics lab with the decommissioned robot that had the blood on his hand, which the doctor reveals that it must have killed
Borg,
because Borg could have put up a fight.
Right. And this is also when they explain robophobia and why Poole went off the deep end, because he'd been around robots for so long and they don't display any body language, so it's kind of just like walking around on a ship of corpses, or walking dead people. I don't know.
The Walking Dead.
I mean, that's what I immediately thought, actually, because they do say The Walking Dead at some point.
Also, what is it? Poole is hanging out in the command room, kind of muttering to himself on the floor in a state of insanity.
Yeah.
So, the doctor sends D84 to go get some helium.
Right.
And he brings it back, and the doctor's constructed, he calls it like a robot deactivation bomb or something like that. But when he activates it, it'll fry the brains of any robot in the immediate area.
Right, and Leela asks him to explain it or something like that, and he just snaps out like, "Won't you ever stop talking?"
Yeah, kind of.
Apparently, Tom Baker didn't want a new companion on the show at all, so
yeah,
I don't know. This is
snappy and just kind of runs Louise Jameson's lines a lot. I actually found this out by listening to Flight Through Entirety in between episodes 3 and 4. So I specifically noted that line in episode 4. I was like, oh, I guess they were right. Tom Baker does like to kind of be snappy with Louise Jameson.
Right. I mean, obviously it was a line written in the script. He didn't just ad-lib. He didn't just ad-lib a little, shut up in, but
hey, you never know.
Maybe, but I mean,
Patrick Troughton ad-libbed a lot of his lines, which is like apparently why it's really difficult for people who write Second Doctor novels to try and nail down his characterization because a lot of his lines were ad-libbed.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure most of his ad-libbed lines weren't telling recurring cast members to shut up. Anyway, yeah, I think you're right. I think he did jump her line because it sounded like she was supposed to start saying something and then he would interrupt her.
Yeah.
But then he just jumped the line, so whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just pointing it out because it was pretty noticeable that he didn't seem to have any prompts to tell her to shut up.
Right.
Kind of felt bad for Leela there because it kind of zooms in on Leela's face and she's like, oh, okay. Kind of dejected.
Hopefully this doesn't come into play too much more. I mean, I didn't notice any antagonism at all other than
that line.
Potentially this. And I mean, I might not have even noticed this at all had I not... this might just be me saying, like... I knew he was sort of...
Like hindsight bias, basically.
Yeah, hindsight bias.
But I guess we'll see in the future, in the coming serials, if it gets played up more, if it's kind of a one-off occurrence. I suppose we're kind of going to have to hold ourselves to mentioning that now.
Darn. No.
Oh, darn. Right, so... Anyway, beyond that, Leela and the Doctor decide to go down to Taryn Capel's lab. So the Doctor's going to see... He's going to hang out there and try to lure the robots there and then deactivate all of them at once.
Yep, and he tells D-84 not to come with him because the deactivation unit will also deactivate him, but D-84 convinces the Doctor to let him come along anyway.
Yeah, D-84 is like, my duty is to the company, and this is for the company, and the Doctor's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, actually, maybe D-84 couldn't have even been a companion because he was too... He had to follow his prime directive, loyal to the company.
I feel like from here until the end, I think he was just kind of dejected and upset all the way back to when he mentions that he failed to consider that point that the people on the ship could have been Taryn Capel. Because from then on, he just kind of seems dejected and just kind of going along with it, which is why I feel like he goes with the Doctor like, oh, I don't really have anything to live for. Kind of like Wally. He kind of developed a character when he wasn't supposed to.
Huh. Well, that just makes everything a lot more depressing.
I mean, because his final line, which we're about to get to, is something like, goodbye, friends.
He did save everyone.
Yeah, well, we should explain what happens, and then we can talk about D-84. So they're in the lab, and the Doctor hides Leela in the wall, and he's like, okay, when Taryn Capel / Dask comes in, I want you to open this canister and vent the gas. And then Leela's like, what does it do? And the Doc's like, when you breathe it, it makes your voice go high. Leela's like, oh, so when Dask breathes it, the robots won't listen to him. Like, wow, I didn't even think of that. So good on you, Leela, for figuring that out really quickly.
Yeah, Leela. I honestly think Leela's going to end up being one of my favorite companions.
Well, I mean, she's pretty awesome so far. And looking forward, we've already seen her development into not deciding to kill everybody on first sight, so that's good.
Yeah.
At least she has a character arc to live up to. So the Doctor's in there, and then Dask comes in and is like, so, Doctor, looks like I've captured you. And he ties him down. It's like, I'm going to torture you very slowly, Doctor.
But first I'm going to monologue about my plan and my life growing up with robots.
The Doctor even says that. He's like, are you going to monologue your evil plan to me? Your plan for ruling the universe? And he's like, no, Doctor. I'm just going to tell you about my robot friends.
Humans don't deserve to live. They've subjugated robots for long enough.
Clearly growing up with robots affected Dask / Taryn Capel so I'm just going to refer to him as Dask because that was his original name.
It's easier to say, too.
Has affected him in some way.
Yeah, you think?
Nah.
He's fine.
I think he's fine. He'll be fine. Actually, he won't be.
Because SV7, I think, walks in and Dask gives it some orders, but it doesn't listen because Leela has opened the
helium.
The helium, and Dask's voice is now super high-pitched, and SV7 can't recognize it, so it kills him.
Yeah, because Dask's immediate preceding order, which was like 10 or so minutes ago, serial-wise, was like, kill all the humans on the ship. So the robots are like, okay, kill all the humans. Neglecting the fact that the Doctor isn't a human, but I guess the the robots will see him as human. But anyway, because Dask can't countermand that order, SV7's like, kill all humans, gotta kill you, Dask. So it kills Dask.
We forgot that humorous scene where the doctor puts his hat and scarf on a robot, and another robot thinks it's the doctor, so it starts strangling it.
SV7 walks in and is like, that is not the doctor. V5 or V6 or whatever. Yeah, V5 got killed.
By the bombs, right?
Yeah. Uvanov kills V5 with the bomb.
And then D84 kills someone else with that it wasn't a flask, it was looked almost like a
D84 stabs someone with a metal pole. He stabs one of the robots with a metal pole.
It was a metal pole?
That's what I thought it was. And he stabbed it through the robot's brain center, which is why it died. Kind of went writhing on the floor, died. And also, when Dask walked in, he stabs D84 with some robot serum thing that he also uses on the doctor's brain somehow.
Yeah.
So he's writhing on the floor. D84, that is, not the doctor.
But he manages to kill SV7, saving everyone.
Yeah, he activates the bomb thing, which kills SV7. And D84's like, goodbye. No, he doesn't kill SV7.
Who kills SV7?
Uvanov and Tus run in and kill SV7.
Then what does D84 do?
He kills a different robot that comes in.
Okay.
He kills the robot that kills Dask that wasn't SV7, because SV7 comes in after D84 activates the bomb. So
okay.
He activates the bomb, which kills the robot that's about to kill the doctor because it's killed Dask. And D84's like, goodbye, friends, and activates it and kills him and the robot. And then SV7 comes in and is like, what's up, guys? And the doctor's like, And then Uvanov and Tus come in and is like, time to bomb it. So they do, and it blows up. And then Leela starts talking in a really high-pitched voice, and the doctor's like, ooh, there's a mouse in the wall. Come out, mouse.
And then the serial just ends, just straight up ends. It just shows them going into the TARDIS, and Leela asks, shouldn't we kind of follow up on what happens? The doctor's like, no, we don't have time, let's go. And then it just ends.
The question every fan asks, shouldn't the doctor, follow up on what happens? No.
Especially given last week. What if the doctor started another evil cult? Not cult, but what if he started another... Yeah, cult, I guess, is the right word.
I mean, let's not forget that Uvanov and Tus are now the only two living members on the ship in a, it's a ship full of corpses and deactivated robots.
Oh, God.
And Poole, who's just insane.
Great team.
They started a new show. Uvanov and Tus, Robot Hunters.
I was going to say Uvanov's 3, but no. I'm pretty sure that's what Blake 7 refers to. Blake and then his 6 crew members. I don't know. But anyway, one of my only complaints with this serial is that it just ends so abruptly. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have wanted there to be another episode because the serial felt finished, but maybe just another minute or two to explain, or not explain, but to follow up on what happens with, or what Uvanov, Tus, and Poole, I guess, are going to do.
Yeah, it ended pretty abruptly, but at the same time, I didn't even realize it was the ending because the final whole climax scene felt so engaging and so, I guess, well-paced that I didn't really notice it was the ending, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we're over now, and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Chris Boucher is, given these two serials, is pretty good at not... Well, the pacing feels good because he doesn't give away the mystery like so many writers do on this show right in the first episode.
Yeah, I mean, we said there are situations in which dumping the whole mystery at the beginning can work. It's just not usually an optimal course of action. There's been one or two serials that dumped the whole mystery on the beginning and then worked out.
I guess Power of the Daleks might have been one, just off the top of my head.
But, yeah, I mean, part of the good pacing was the well-written dialogue, which is like most of the serial because, dialogue is, what you're listening to while you're watching.
Right. It helped when most of the characters weren't dead, but yeah.
Yeah. And this serial was, who was it? I think Hinchcliffe wanted a robot serial, but Holmes was like, can't write a robot serial, they're always boring. And then Hinchcliffe thought, no, we can do this.
Just have Chris Boucher write it.
Just have Chris Boucher do it. I'm like, okay. And he did, and it worked out really well.
Right. I also really liked how, like I said before, Leela was portrayed during this. Not portrayed, but I guess characterizing. It's the same thing, but whatever.
Yeah. and hopefully that continues.
I'm not getting my hopes up.
Yeah, I mean, who writes next?
Who would get their hopes up on this show?
I don't know, maybe Robert Holmes can keep the characterization up. I mean, Robert Holmes been pretty good at whipping some serials into shape, so to speak, I think his quality of dialogue has been higher than Terrence Dicks and Whitaker's were. Just overall. I don't think that would be an incorrect statement.
No, it wouldn't.
Also, the serial was pretty blatantly stealing some plot threads, some other things, which I don't mind because they all worked pretty well together. I mean, it basically took its main premise from And Then There Were None, an Agatha Christie novel, which is my favorite novel of all time, by the way. Might bias my perception of the serial a bit, but...
Well, I liked it too, and I haven't even read that, so...
It's a good book, but, I mean, basically the premise of the book, which gets adapted to this story, is that... Well, in the book, it's 10 people get invited to an island, but basically they all start getting killed off mysteriously, and they all think someone out of the 10 is doing it, and some people think it's an outside force, and then they all argue for a lot. They all accuse each other and factions form. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And it really worked in the setting that they put it in here. The
right.
Dune-like setting.
Apparently, also, this serial was adapted into a play this year.
Yeah, because there's that fan audio range about Caldor City, which is briefly mentioned in this serial. I think it's like the headquarters of the civilization that runs these robots. It's actually not stated what species, Uvanov and everyone is. I guess humans, but it's not stated what year it takes place in. But there's like an empire, and Caldor City is at some sort of capital or major city. It's like a fan audio series / book range settled around Caldor City. Chris Boucher actually wrote one of them. And they for that range of fan-produced things, they adapted this into a stage play. But they didn't use the Doctor and Leela because those are copyright the BBC. So, because like we mentioned before, any characters you create at this point in the show, any characters you create, like serial-specific characters, belong to the writer.
Yeah, isn't that the case, like, even now?
I think so, but I'm not...
I mean, just in general.
Entirely certain. I would imagine so.
Like, not just specific to Doctor Who. Like, if you write a character, it's your own property, so...
I mean, I don't know too much about present-day copyright in that aspect, so I don't want to comment too much on it.
Yeah, that's just what I think it is.
It would make sense. Sure. I don't know why they would change it. But yeah, Chris Boucher was like, yeah, you can totally use my characters. I don't mind. So
yeah, I mean, considering Boucher only has one serial left that he writes, I kind of want to read some of his other stuff because he's one of the best writers we've had in a while.
Maybe we should read Corpse Marker.
Maybe.
Something to consider. We'll think about it.
Okay.
And like we said, it makes me want to watch Blake 7 now, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's only...
It was also created by Terry Nations.
well...
But Terry Nation has some good ideas.
Yeah, he does.
He's not that good of a writer sometimes.
Well, 52 episodes, I mean, we could probably get through that in, a day?
No, because 52 episodes at 23 minutes...
Yeah, it's like 26 hours, give or take.
Yeah, it's a little more than a day. Just a little bit more than a day. So, yeah. That's it. That's that. I guess. Email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, thoughts on Chris Boucher. Tell us if you want us to read a Chris Boucher novel. We're actually Boucher. I guess we're considering it now that we've mentioned it. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but if there's a demand for it, that would make us want to do it even more. Hint, hint. Check us out on iTunes. at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Grab the feed off the website.
Also, check us out on Facebook, like us on Facebook, check us out on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. Well, check us out on Facebook at Trust Your Doctor, and Twitter, TYD Podcast. But yeah, next week we wrap up season 14 with the Talons of Wang Chiang.
Chiang.
I don't know.
Wang Chiang.
That. But until then, the end.